Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 27th, 2023 public board meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank. My name is Mike Gilliard. I serve as the executive director of the organization. Welcome to all members of the public. We do ask that you limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I'll turn it over to Daniel Cantor, the board chair.
Hi, everybody. Okay, since we're back on Zoom, but haven't been for a while, I'm not entirely sure what the rules are. So to cover our bases, let's, I guess, do roll call and state the physical location from which you are taking the meeting, or no?
I don't think you should do that, honestly. I don't think you have to. That's just my thought.
So let's just say our names. Daniel Cantor, board chair, present. Bartek.
Bartek Stardai, board member.
Ethel.
Ethel Knox, board member.
Nate.
Nate Hennigan, treasurer.
Aaron.
Aaron Chilowitz, board member.
You on Metro North. Good on you. Did I miss anybody? I'm not sure who Gregory is, but I don't think it's one of us. Okay. I think there's our statement of quorum. Before we move on, can we vote to accept prior meeting minutes as uploaded to YouTube from our January board meeting? I'll entertain a motion.
Seconded.
All in favor of accepting prior meeting minutes? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Some quick announcements. It was a short but very active month. So the headline news is we still have 2 homes for sale at 237 East Union as well as 63 German Street. Both are coming along very nicely. Applications are due by March 18th. Don't get scared for anyone listening by the application. It is very short and simple. You can now take a wildly fun virtual tour of both properties. Both of those videos are up on our website at kclb.org/home. They are also on our social media as well as our YouTube channel. I think that covers it. Let's see. On February 6th, I gave my semi-annual Common Council report to the Common Council caucus. So that was really exciting, and I feel like led to good conversation and kind of clarified some things for them. So I'm glad we did that. Mike has a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that I used, and I'm sure if anybody wants it, they can have it. That was quickly followed by on the 7th, the council voted unanimously to allow us to purchase 38 Chapel, 488 Hasbrook, and 52 Grand. All 3 of those homes were on the original list of 36. They had either title or other issues, and one of their issues was also the very high price of the back taxes that really would have made this unfundable for pretty much any organization, ours included. So it was a really big win. So huge compliments to everybody that has worked on this over the years and recently and got that done. It's really cool. I think it could be precedent setting for us. So yeah, huge thank you to our donors, everybody who outreach to their representatives. There were a lot of emails and phone calls, as far as I understand, as well as our fine electeds for making the right decision. Bob and Mike and combination of other have been very busy trying to figure out the ARPA funding. So Mike will have some more to say about that shortly. Flyers for our existing campaign, I believe, have been dropped in every mailbox in the city of Kingston. I got it twice. That seems very successful. However, various board members from the communications committee also have individual printings of those flyers to drop at various locations. So if you're on that committee and you haven't done it yet, that's still valuable. And if you are on that committee and haven't done it yet and could use a sub to do it for you or get some additional support, please let us know. So yeah, let's try to get all those out by the end of the week, I think is a healthy goal. Let's see, the New York State Land Bank Association's 10-year report came out. We were on a few different pages of it, but it's a really good document to sort of drive home the importance and impact of this work, not just here, but throughout the state. So thank you to the association for putting that together. Mike and Kyle and others have pulled Third Avenue over the finish line. So we have closed on Third Avenue, which is huge and really exciting. So for those unfamiliar, we had previously purchased a city-owned parcel that was a little tiny part of this basically entire Square City block that has apparently never been developed. So Mike worked very hard to track down adjacent owners and deal with title issues. And this has been going on for well over a year, I think. And so now we are the proud owners of this very large parcel that we're hoping we can build somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 homes on that will be affordable, just like our others. So awesome job. Thank you. Otherwise, our sale of 24 Hamilton appears to be moving forward. The contract of sale has been sent. I think we're rapidly moving toward a closing there. Same thing on Henry Street. And he's not here, but our very own Bob Dennison has been nominated to run for Common Council. I believe he's running unopposed and will more than likely be elected. So huge congratulations to Bob. He will make an excellent council member. For the rest of the board, consider if you would be interested in running for vice chair, because at some point we're going to need to hold a little special election for that. But we are thrilled that Bob is taking this on, and I am thrilled. I'll speak for myself. So yeah, I think that's it for me. We have a public comments period. It looks like we have 2 members of the public, which is very exciting. So if you guys, we also do a public comments period at the end of the meeting. No reason for you to stay that long unless you really want to. But yeah, now's an opportunity to say whatever.
I'll wait to the end.
Okay. And Gregory, I'm not sure if you're there.
All right, just do what I should.
I'm here. What's going on?
Hey, Gregory, how are you?
Good. How are you? I actually just hopped back on. Am I introducing myself?
Yes, please.
What's going on, guys? Greg. I'm a real estate investor. I'm born New York native, down in Westchester. We invest nationwide. I'm interested in Kingston. Been seeing a lot, great things, and I'm always having coffee there. So, excited to meet you guys.
Good to meet you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay. Chanel, you sure? You'll have the other opportunity.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Cool. So now Mike has some things to tell us. Tell us things.
I'll do my best.
Thanks.
And there's someone else who just joined. I just wanted to provide space if that was public.
It's just Aaron. My video wasn't working, so I called in.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Daniel, for summarizing kind of where we're at. I have similar comments, but I think you captured the vast majority of it. I do just want to underscore Third Avenue is huge opportunity for us. I'm very excited about it. Thank you for your trust in this process to get us to be able to acquire this site. Thank you, Stacy, for digging deep into our books to make sure that we had the resources available to do so. Thank you, Kyle, for making sure that it was humoring my Excel adventures to make sure that it's feasible. Thank you, Owen, for your patience, ongoing and current, and for the various permutations for what we are going to build here. It's a team effort. It's a great opportunity. It will move quickly. We're not sitting on it, but at this point, we're working on sort of a project charter, sort of basic structure composition, and we will be bringing that back to the board periodically. There are no decisions that need to be made at this time. It remains a big vacant piece of land with tons of opportunity. We're very excited about it. So thank you for your support to get to this point. I'll start out as I usually do with the pipeline, just to speak to kind of where we're at in future acquisitions, although we just purchased a great big lot. The City of Kingston's disposition policy, I have no updates on that. My understanding is that it's probably still sitting with the Finance Committee. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so stay tuned on that. Similarly, I believe it's moving forward, clearing some of the old title issues on additional properties from that resolution 172 of 2018. So that could provide us this year with additional opportunities to purchase additional homes or properties. And the NCST that we spoke about at the last board meeting is something that we'll continue to talk about, and we're ready to complete the application and engage around that opportunity for additional properties. On the pre-development side, we're up to 8 properties in pre-development. So we have Legacy Cities 2, which Daniel mentioned, is Gill Street, Grand, Hasbrook, and Chapel. So Kyle, Owen, and I are moving forward with pre-development work around that, including phase 1 and surveys and financial modeling and other aspects of just ensuring that the properties clean title, which is very important, which they do have. So we're making sure that they're fit to acquire, and we will seek approval to acquire them fairly soon, possibly at the next meeting. As Daniel mentioned, Henry Street, no updates, but sale is soon. Same thing with Hamilton, and no updates at this time on Down Street. On the new funding updates category, always my most exciting thing for me anyway. The ARPA stimulus funding, the updates that I have on this, I guess I'll sort of don't want to talk over what would be Bob's talking points, but I don't believe he's here. So we did meet with the city. Thank you, Bob, for setting up that kickoff. We talked through the different sort of permutations as to how the funding would be released. Right now, it's currently contemplated to be something that we can requisition from the city on a monthly basis, on a reimbursable basis. So I did want to highlight that we're still sorting out exactly what that looks like, and it's probably some time off before we have all the details, but we're hoping to receive a contract from the city soon. And that will be when we're presented with some more structure around what this could look like. It's a great opportunity. We think that the funding should be allocated towards the 3rd Avenue development as opposed to Legacy Cities 2. And this is Kyle and I going back and forth with Stacy and Owen around the various budget permutations. But right now, we would recommend that 100% of the funding be allocated towards 3rd Avenue. The LBI funding, this is the Land Bank Initiative, phase 2, is something that we are applying for on March 13th. This is an 18-month contract term for up to $2 million from the state of New York for land banks to various activities. They would not be awarding until May. So 18 months from May, we would have to come up with a plan, which we have, to expend $2 million across the 2 projects, being Legacy Cities 2 and 3rd Avenue. Very excited about that. We really appreciate the state offering the opportunity to all 27 land banks to participate in this program. And we will be applying for the maximum amount, and we'll be showing yet again the great work that we can do. We have to do in partnership with the state and with many other partners. So excited about that. And finally, we become made aware of congressional discretionary spending. I knew I was going to stumble on that opportunity through Senators Gillibrand and Schumer to apply for funding early next month, also for Legacy Cities 2. So Kyle and I are putting our heads together on that and sorting out that application. So just to keep you in the loop, those are the things that are going on the funding side of things.
And Mike,
finally,
can you explain what that last? Can you just explain what the last one is? I think that's a new item.
Sure. Yeah, it's Kyle became aware of it, I think, through the Land Bank Association call that I was unable to make. I was preparing for the Henry Street closing. It is discretionary spending. I probably will bobble the details because we just haven't done it for a while. But senators have the opportunity to make recommendations for awards of funding based on different project categories, including housing, including new construction, affordable housing, rehab, affordable housing. The amounts that you apply for are unclear, and there's a request to apply. How much do you need, and how much do you really need? And so it's kind of a weird question, but it's a fairly straightforward application. I don't know, Aaron, if you've worked with this funding before. I'd love to pick your brain on it, maybe offline, to get some tips or pointers because it is somewhat of a vague application. It's a fairly simple application.
No, news to me. Yeah, interested.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course. And then the last thing I would say, as Daniel mentioned, kclb.org/homes, plural. That is where everything lives, including the great walkthroughs that Daniel did. Thank you very much, Daniel. They're amazing. I don't know how you do it. I know a ton of work goes into it. They look great. Last time, and I'm sure this time, these will be our most watched YouTube videos, including this board meeting, by a magnitude of maybe 100 to 1. So it really gets the word out there. There are many different amazing ways that we're all getting the word out there, but everything is on that link. Everything is on that page, from floor plans and finished details to historic photos of the homes to the household income guidelines to the registration places page itself. So we got 19 days left in the campaign, and the more we get the word out there, the more folks will have the opportunity. That is it. Thank you. I think you might be muted.
I said I forgot how to do this. Sorry. Our chair of the committee is not here, so let's do acquisition, disposition, and construction. Owen, if you want to dive right in, go for it.
Sure thing. Just a couple of brief things this month, really. The first is it took a while for we agreed with our previous general contractor for 124 Franklin. We agreed with them in early January on a what would be a final disbursement for them, a final payment, and it took a while for the paperwork to be submitted, and now it's like 95% submitted. So I think the important thing about that, from my perspective, is that we now have very clear written documentation that everybody's on the same page about what this final disbursement will be. So even though we're missing these, two pieces of paper that are going to release their final payment, which they're working on, we have agreed on it, gotten the written agreement, and it feels like the risk level on the whole situation dropped significantly. So that's good. And I think I feel like turning a corner as far as ability to move forward into next phase and getting a new GC set up there. So we'll be working with Mike to put together a new RFP and get it out there. Legacy cities, I'll show you the my updated little spreadsheet. This is the same thing I presented to the AD&C committee a couple weeks ago. I think that at the time, one of my main points to communicate was that German Street was pretty maxed out on contingency, or is maxed out on contingency. This German Street, a lot of issues were coming up that needed to be captured and were evolving, and so German Street, these numbers do include things that are not settled into change orders yet. They're still being priced or been agreed to T&M or guesses at future costs. But I think in the couple weeks since then, some of these things have solidified a little bit, and while it is generally true that the contingency on German Street won't have extra in it, I'm not worried about going over it at this point. And Union Street, which is wrapping up with not all of its contingency committed. schedule, we're pretty good on schedule. And a little bit of work is happening at Hurley here and there. While the main focus is on German Street. Does anybody have any questions on what's going on with Legacy Cities? All right. Yeah, otherwise I'll just say that I got to tour those 3 houses that the city offered to us and was excited to see the insides. I'd seen the outsides before, but looking forward to doing more in those houses. That's it for me, I think.
Thank you, Owen.
Could I give a little intro, Daniel, on the next part, which is a slightly new tweak with Kyle? Reporting on, the thinking was, I think Nate brought this up at the finance meeting in a general sense, looking for different types of dashboards. And so this is an attempt within the Legacy Cities program. Hopefully, Nate, this is close to what you were thinking in terms of just on that part of the program showing sort of the ins and outs and funds expended. And I won't steal Kyle's thunder, but I just wanted to set the stage for why we're testing this out. So your feedback is appreciated. And with that, on you, Kyle. Take us away.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, as Mike was saying, we're going to start including this dashboard in the package going forward. Everyone's seeing my Excel file? Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I'm going to start include this in the package going forward. So just want to give an overview today. Hopefully, we don't have to get into this too much going forward. But super high level, this shows the Legacy Cities budget and how much we've drawn so far on the project. It's actually shows the budget as of next week after our current pending requisition, which we expect to go forward. The main area of focus here is this top table. And this represents the total budget for Legacy Cities split by funding source. And then we have it broken out by property below there. So we've broken out the original budget amounts. This includes the construction costs that Owen got into a little bit just now. We show the draws from last month, this month's pending draw, total amount drawn to date, remaining balance, and the percent drawn on the overall project. And then similarly tried to do a expected completion estimate. You know, funding is going to be kind of lumpy at the beginning and the end here, so I wouldn't rely on these percentages too much, but I think it gives a good overall idea of where we are with the project. Let me just see here. Yeah, so on the left here, we have the funding sources of the project, the Novo grant, CPC mortgage, and then between here we got $600,000 in the state HCR subsidy. It's just split into its 2 components here. And it's more or less the order that the funds are being drawn in. We got the first $500,000 from Novo, designed to cover the first $500,000 in construction costs. We were drawing a little bit from CPC funds, but we'll start drawing from those more as we run out of Novo funds. And then from HCR afterwards, and for some specific items in the project that they've earmarked. As for the budget amounts, gone to this already, but this total budget amount includes approximately the 1.35 million in construction, OMP, contingency costs for the project, and then about 600,000 of remaining costs. That's professional fees, carrying costs, closing costs, a lot of which were spent at the closing table. Yeah, so below these, the funds are broken out to the individual properties. You'll see, yeah, we started with German and Union. Those are the 2 projects we were working on first, the 2 projects we have for sale now. So we started drawing down funds on those first, and you'll see we've been working on Hurley a little bit, Rogers a little bit afterward, as Owen mentioned. Yeah, so one thing to point out, we're just showing the Novo funds as overdrawn for German, not to be concerned. Original document we worked on with the bank showed the Novo funds split evenly between the properties, more or less as placeholders. with a, 125,000 going to each house. But we've been working with CPC to reallocate these numbers so that the 500,000 from Novo, it goes to the properties that need it first based on the construction timelines. We'll use more funds at Novo, likely less at Rogers, so it's going to balance out at a project level. Yeah, so the project level budget's really what we want to be looking at for an understanding of what's going on. Sorry, I know it's a lot. Try and keep it shorter next month, but yeah, if there are any questions, I can go into much further detail if anybody cares to see that. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about this or anything else you'd like to see in a legacy cities.
Hey, Kyle,
yeah.
One initial question. It's not, I mean, I don't actually think you need to make it a part of any future presentation, but it's just probably a curiosity thing on my part is the other categories of expenses that were allocated to Novo's funds versus CPC's funds. Are there certain kind of like capital requirements, things that CPC wouldn't pay for, or how was that division made in the draw schedule that you guys put together?
Yeah, so the Novo funds are designed specifically go to construction costs. So it's supposed to be the first, 500,000 of construction costs that were included in the budget. CPC funds are specifically allocated to, the remainder of the construction costs, but other things, their interest reserve, various carrying costs, things like that. But yeah, the Novo is designed to be first out the door for construction costs. If that answers your question.
Is that, yeah, it is. Is that an aspect of the funding with Novo? It's probably mentioned previously, and I just am not aware. Is when we get funding from Novo for projects like this, or if we got it in the future, in the grant agreement, does it say, like, is it specifically say, is there kind of a capital requirement that it has to be put towards hard costs? I'm probably just wondering if you were to, if that would something to think through. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Sure. No, it's okay. I was Novo has been very flexible in terms of the outline of design of the grant agreements on the project level. We never got to this level of detail with them. This is more working with Kyle and the bank and the state to allocate the funding. We certainly could be more specific in the future, but it's because they're being so generous in funding the development that the decision was made to fund the hard costs with this first, rather than spread it across different pieces of the puzzle, because getting the homes built is the biggest, obviously the biggest achievement. If that answers your question, it was non-specific in the grant agreement. Grant agreement is very flexible. Thanks.
That makes more sense. It actually is preferable.
Yeah,
Thank you.
totally.
The other point is that if we can use these funds first, then that means we don't need to take out the mortgage funds sooner and start paying interest on those. So the idea is, use less of CPC funds, then use them when we have to use them.
And one thing, just to add a nuance to the detail of what's being presented here compared to what Owen is presenting. Owen is presenting the hard cost only, and Kyle is showing kind of the full requisition that includes some soft costs. So if you're looking to match the two of them up, that would be the difference. That makes sense.
It's a great spreadsheet, Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm flattered.
The work of art. Thank you for putting it together. It really does make things very clear.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Otherwise, I think Owen already covered Franklin. I basically covered Hamilton. That prospective buyer has been in the mix with us since the RFP went out in October 21. Is that right? It's been about a year and a half. So it's very exciting to be sort of nearing the end of that road. He's been really through the ringer with trying to find a contractor and all this stuff. So hopefully next month's meeting we'll be able to announce a sale. Anything else to add to ADC? Okay. Nate.
Can I just, oh, sorry. can I ask one question about Hamilton as well? Has he, Mike, do you know if he's built in contingency, like how much contingency he's built into his budget?
I don't know, Aaron.
Okay.
We're not at that point. With
Yeah,
level of
okay, fair
detail.
enough.
No.
Just curious. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Nate. Do it up.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I'm gonna go in a slightly different order than what you're seeing in the board package, but here we go. Can everybody see that? So first of all, I apologize, but for the life of me, I cannot find my notes from our finance committee meeting. So if there are any questions, I may kick it over to Stacy to answer them. But I want to talk about a couple of really great high level things first. So first and foremost, you will see that this is the first month where we have separate financial reports for the overall organization, as well as financial reports for the Legacy Cities LLC. You'll also see in these reports that one of the bigger adjustments that Stacy's been working on is changing how we are representing the construction costs in our profit or in our overall reporting. So rather than showing that as an expense in our profit and loss statements, you'll see that as added to the asset value of the individual properties, because from an accounting purpose, in reality, when we're spending money on construction on these properties, it's increasing the asset value of each of the individual properties. So it's in terms of the actual construction expenses, that's broken out a lot more in more detail in some of the other reports from Kyle and Owen. But this better reflects the way that the accounting we think it should be structured going forward. And so I want to give a huge shout out to Stacy for all her hard work putting all this together, and frankly teaching all of us in the finance meetings a little bit about accounting. So those are the big overall things I want to mention. You'll see first up here is the profit and loss for the LLC. So for January, pretty small. We just have this $650 for the bank charges and fees. I believe that was some bank fees related to the mortgage. Is that right? Stacy? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
I'm going to dive in. I'm going to bring it up. I didn't know which one you were going to go first. I'm in the other company in
sorry.
QuickBooks. Let me just jump into the other one. That's no problem. It just takes a second to do the deep time in. I don't remember either, Nate. No, just kidding. Let's see. One more minute and I'll do it public. It's actually the bank inspection fees.
Oh,
So-
okay, that's right. Cool.
Yeah.
So those are the bank inspection fees, but you'll see here now on our profit and loss that those, like our construction costs that we've been spending on Legacy Cities, are no longer on these profit and losses as an expense. So jumping over now to the balance sheet, you'll see here that each of these individual properties now have an asset value, which represents basically the amount that we spent to acquire those properties, plus all of the construction costs that have gone into each of the properties. So now it's reflected as an asset value for each construction expense. It will have an opposite increase to those assets. The checking account has about $387,000 to use towards future construction costs on all those projects. as well as other expenses through the LLC. But you'll see here we're in good shape. Everything is pretty on track. I don't think there was anything else to call out on this balance sheet, but any questions?
Did you want to talk about the long-term liabilities? This is where we're starting to show the balances that we've drawn down on the mortgage. Is that
Yeah,
something?
why don't you talk? I can't find my notes on those. Do you mind?
It's okay. So if you go down to the long-term liabilities, you have the HTF, which was you'd seen that on Kyle's spreadsheet, and then the mortgage. His numbers and my numbers don't exactly match because this is January 31st, this reporting, and his goes all the way through to today. So there was more funding that happened between January 31st and today. So that's what we've drawn down so far. Mostly the money in the M&T checking is what's left over from Novo. Novo funds went in, and then it might also be some money that CPC put in and we haven't paid out yet. So I don't know if that helps to understand this.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's helpful. Any questions before I jump ahead to the next one? No? Okay. So those were the two reports for the LLC. Now, here's the profit and loss for the overall organization for January. In terms of our income, small $20 donation, sort of a recurring donation that I think has been set up by some generous donors. For expenses, it's pretty standard, our small administrative expenses. Most of these are pretty much in line with what we've seen in prior months. The biggest expense, obviously, is our consultant fees, and then everything else is, like I said, everything in here, it really is in line with what we've seen in prior months. But again, you'll see that the expenses in this one are a little bit different in how they look from prior reports because we're not showing each of those construction costs all listed out. So you'll see that in a second on the balance sheet. But any questions on this before I jump to the next one?
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when you were talking about the construction costs, so basically with the construction costs, you'll be able to see the what we spent in construction costs from month to month. For next month, you'll see that I'll do a comparison balance sheet. So you'll see the difference between, like, when you go to the balance sheet, you'll see the difference between property at January, each property at January 31st versus February 28th. And that's when I'll do it, and I'll do a separate column to show the differential, either in dollars or percentage, however you guys feel is a little bit more helpful to understand it.
Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, and I'll talk a little more about looking ahead to our future reports after this, but that's a good note. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so now jumping to the balance sheet. You'll see here our assets, we've got about 1.5 million in the M&T checking. Let's see, the temp restricted account, remind me again what that one is, Stacey.
So that was set up earlier by the previous person, where a lot of the donations went into it. I'm not sure why it was separated like that. We're going to talk about how we're going to utilize that a little bit better. So that really represents donations that we haven't touched yet. So individual donations.
Got it. Okay. And I think I'm betting that the PayPal is probably the same, that it just hasn't been withdrawn into other accounts yet.
Yes.
Got it.
We can pull that out at any time we want, but it's a small amount that we're sort of like leaving it there.
Makes sense. Okay, and then other assets, the prepaid, that's a lot of those expenses are prepaid expenses where we have to pay, and tell me if I'm getting any of this wrong, Stacy, but we have to pay basically in advance for a chunk of time that isn't necessarily included in the January report. So it's like we're paying for like I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like a 6-month period. So for the 5 months that aren't included here, it's logged as an asset rather than as an expense, right?
Yeah, so for generally accepted accounting principles, when you do you buy insurance, for instance, because that's what that is basically, or and the legal fees. So you're actually buying the insurance before the period happens. So the period for some of these insurances are different, but let's say the January one doesn't start till January 5th and you bought it for $30,000, right? That, like, let's say the first one. So you just kind of have to amortize it over the life of the insurance policy. That's what generally, so on your profit and loss statement, you're going to just see every month is going to be probably the same amount. So we're amortizing it over 12 months, and that's what it is. So you're it's sitting here. We've paid for this already. It's already out of the door in cash, but we're putting it on the balance sheet and then we're amortizing it every month. The same thing for the legal fees.
Right. Yeah. And for the legal fees, it's like a retainer that we paid. And then when we actually use those legal fees, it's drawn down from that. So for now, it shows as an asset. And then as we draw down from it, it will show up as an expense, or at least a lower asset value.
Well, that's not 100% true about drawing
Okay.
down. So so because basically we gave the attorney $25,000. I don't think we're getting any money back if we don't spend it. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
like for a regular retainer, yes, that might make sense. But I think in this case, we paid $25,000 for anything that we want him to do. Is that true, Mike? Is it anything, or is it there might be a set
In terms of, sorry, could you rehash the
the
question?
$25,000 that we paid to the for legal fees, we paid it
Yes.
in the beginning of January.
Yes.
And so that isn't any money we're ever going to get back. It's just basically that's $25,000 for all our legal services for the whole year of 2023.
That's correct, with the exception of closings. We have separate agreed upon closing fees,
Right.
but it covers everything else, with the exception of closings.
Right. So just back to we're just going to amortize that by 12. So each month you're going to see this lowered by 112. This is really a way to show it.
Makes sense. Okay. And then you'll also see in here the $500,000 that was prepaid to the LLC as part of the grant, as well as each of the properties are now listed out as assets on the balance sheet. So again, the asset value of the properties are the acquisition cost plus construction costs that have gone into those properties through the end of January. Scrolling down more. Again, everything's pretty much in line with what we've seen in prior months. I'll pause there for questions. Anyone?
I want to just comment about the net income. And, you know, this looks like a net loss. It's interesting because it's not a real good picture to say that we're at a loss of $38,000. You know, it's hard to just kind of just take 1 month at a time.
Yeah.
And we don't have any income in January because we didn't receive any money from any source yet.
Right, because most of our grant funding comes in either at the end of 22 for 23 expenses or at the beginning of 23. So during this month period, it's sort of a net loss because there weren't any properties sold and no additional grant money coming in. But overall, we are in good shape. That actually sort of leads me to the next point, which is all of this is, and again, I cannot emphasize enough the great job that Stacey's been doing, helping us reorganize all of these things and get everything cleaned up a bit. That being said, all of these reports, I think, are now in a really good place as far as general accounting purposes go, but we have all realized through our conversations in finance committee meetings, as well as how things are presented in this meeting, that things that make the most sense for our audit or for accounting purposes are not necessarily the most easy to understand for our reports. So one of the things that we're going to be trying to do for hopefully for the next board meeting is creating a sort of streamlined report that for, as I like to call in layman's terms, just, here is the overall financial health of the organization and the LLC as of the end of this report. Sort of in line with the same types of reporting that Kyle and Owen have put together, that really should also, hopefully, as we look ahead, can also have some information on, how much of the cash on hand is actually obligated towards future expenses and costs versus money that we have for new acquisitions or other projects. So that's just a little preview. Hopefully that is to come by the next meeting, if not the one after that. But I'm going to try and work with Stacey to put that together so that it's a little bit easier to digest when we get into these big board meetings. But yeah.
Can I make I just want to say one more thing about this
Yes,
net
please.
income that's part of this conversation. We received $400,000 in December. That is for our operating funds for 2023. So that's why you're not seeing it here. It was recorded in 2022 because that's when we received it. So that's just why that $38,000 looks out of place. And yes, I love that idea that we're going to make it more streamlined and understandable. I can't wait.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you both for this. It's getting better. I mean, I'm mollified as committee meetings, but you two are I mean, Stacey and the Nate, in terms of just trying to wrap your head around it. I appreciate the effort that you're both making. It's very helpful for the rest of us.
Seconded.
And then real quick before I finish up my part of the report, so that's the end of the financial reports, but the other thing I wanted to mention is we've been kicking around the resolution on short-term investments. So that draft is still in the works. Incidentally, we couldn't have voted on it today anyway because we're all remote, but that draft is still in the works. We are hoping to have that finalized at the next finance meeting to be presented at the next board meeting. And we've already worked on narrowing down a short list of safe investment options for the cash on hand. So TBD to come. And that's it.
If there are no further questions or conversation, can I boldly motion that we vote to accept the treasurer's report? I need a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor of accepting that wonderful treasurer's report? Aaron, I'm assuming you're an aye.
I'm an aye.
Unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys very much. This stuff is getting way easier for me to understand, which is quite a feat because I'm not so smart. All right. Aaron, do you feel like you can give a comms report, or is it too hairy where you are?
I think I can probably give a brief version of one and maybe ask Mike to step in as needed, but I'll say that the comms report is mostly going to be focused on legacy cities because our first marketing campaign is underway. As an ongoing kind of placeholder in the agenda is also 2023 fundraising. I think probably next month we'll actually address that. But for the moment, it's really focused on the current marketing campaign. First, thank you everybody who has applied. Thank you everybody who has helped flyer. As you all know, our campaign is open until March 18th. And we are continuing to try to get the word out in every way possible. We have now, as an organization, flyered at nearly every place and reached out to nearly every place we proposed to reach out to. There are several that we will be doing over the next week. We have ads running now on Radio Kingston, and will be appearing on Radio Kingston this Wednesday, and possibly on additional shows over the next few weeks. As Mike already mentioned, Daniel produced these videos, these wonderful tours, which are now up and will hopefully drive more people to apply. As of a few days ago, let me just pull up the exact number here that Mike mentioned. As of Thursday of last week, we had 4 new applications as a part of this campaign. So it's picking up a little bit, but you know, every new application is good. So anything that we can all do to spread the word, continue to spread the word, will be very helpful. I think what other aspects of this I wanted to mention. Mike, is there anything else I am missing? Oh, Kyle helped host the first public info session, which I attended last week. And so thank you, Kyle, for doing that with Passstone. It was very informative. It was actually pretty short. There were some attendees, and I guess remind any applicants, if you're listening, to if you could not attend the info session, there will be one more info session, or you can watch it. There's a link on our website. It will be you don't have to attend it in person, but it is mandatory that any applicants at least watch the video of the info session. Is there anything else that I am missing? Oh, I guess I'll mention that we not experimented, but we took our first social media post regarding the campaign and made it an ad over the past 5 days. I haven't actually looked at the overall data, but it does seem, just based on kind of surface level number of notifications, like it's been successful. Just advertising to people within 15 miles of Kingston on Instagram and Facebook. There's been a lot of there's been an uptick in the number of notifications and messages we get on Instagram and Facebook. Mike and Kyle, is there anything else I'm missing from the comm side of things?
Not that I can think of there, unless
Yeah.
jumps out for Kyle.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to comment on the Facebook stats. Aaron, it did lead to 40 link clicks. And it looks like the budget has been spent, so maybe we want to allocate a few more dollars to take us to the end of the total campaign period. There are also some comments on the post. They're mostly positive, but there's a few comments about how the single person households aren't eligible. So maybe we want to address that, or maybe we want to leave it alone, but I'm just flagging it.
So I will say that I wrote to, you have an option when people post, you have an option of what's it called, of replying publicly or writing, replying to the person. So that post, I responded to the individual, although I can add something publicly, just explaining that the eligibility is based on, I can comment on their comment to write what I wrote, exactly what I wrote there, but to say that eligibility is based on the number of bedrooms. And so for a 3-bedroom house, unfortunately, we can't, you have to have a larger household size in individuals, but that we hope to create opportunities for individuals in the future and on future projects. But yeah, I can add that post. I've been trying to check the messages and comments every 1 to 2 days and respond to things. There've been a lot of people who are just reaching out to ask how to apply, and so I mostly just have I mostly just direct them towards the website. Yeah, that's a good point, Bartek. I can post it so other people who have the same question see the response.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think given how much we get that question, like I had it come in on Instagram during this meeting, maybe we should, I don't know, workshop a solid and easy to understand response, because I think that, part of the reason is in part that, it costs a ton of money to renovate these houses. And so, we're trying to serve the most people that we possibly can. And obviously that leaves these 1 and 2 person households kind of out of it for these homes. Anyway, I just want to, since we get asked it a lot, we should probably have a comprehensive answer that satisfies. Not that I'm saying you couldn't write one, but I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it over email.
I agree, but I guess I have 2 things that come to mind. The second one is the thing that I keep thinking of is Henry Street, and just that's an opportunity. That's really the land bank's first opportunity to create households, create unit sizes from scratch, and it's just the number of times we get this question. I think it's worth thinking about that as pre-development progresses on Henry Street, that having some opportunities in that project for individuals and for 2-person households, I think will be important. And then the other aspect of it, I guess is more a question, is Mike, there's some aspect of our state funding that specifies the household size, or is that at the moment that just kind of an internal policy so that we can right size essentially the households? We don't put individuals in 4 bedrooms and that kind of thing.
Sure. It is an organizational decision to set the household size limits based on bedroom size, but I agree with Daniel that the philosophy behind the decision is to maximize the number of people that we're serving with this work with the limited ability we have to do so, but it is an internal decision.
It does also pretty drastically affect the purchase price, because when we're pricing a house, which is how we do it at 80, or pick a percentage, but 80% AMI, we're pricing for the 3-person household at 80% AMI, not the 6-person household. So if we start dropping to 1 or 2 person, the income goes way down, even though it's the same percentage. And then the sales price follows. And so obviously, like, we're selling things at a loss if you want to think about it that way, but we also, we still have to, especially with legacy cities and this being a loan, like we have to make a certain amount of money back. So if we were to drop to 1 person, we'd also have to raise the AMI to like 100%, say. So that would be a lousy trade-off as well. It's tough.
Agreed. But yeah, I think we can work on a comprehensive response. I think that's a good point, and will be worthwhile.
Cool.
That's everything I have for comms for today. So I think I hand it over to governance.
I did have one more comms question, Mike. I was just wondering if you were able to check with Pastone at all about that email that goes out and her language about completing the PPS application.
Kyle and I did speak with her about the opportunity to present some more information in that intake package from Pastone, and she agreed that the next time she reaches out, she will be including our sales flyer, possibly a link to this webpage that contains everything, and we did have a conversation about that a few weeks ago. So thank you for flagging that.
And the properties.
Yes.
Does that come up? Okay, great.
Yes. It's a great point. Thank you.
And that'll go out to everybody on the list, right? Not just the new applicants?
That is sent out to everyone on the list that passed on has, yes.
But I mean, her update will be.
Or update will be, yes.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Sure.
I would just add real fast, I'm getting credit for those videos, but Aaron is the fine gentleman who shot them. So thank you, Aaron, for taking the time on Friday. Your camera work is impeccable. Okay, governance.
Governance did not meet this past month.
Awesome. Moving on. So we are still seeking 2 board members and will soon be, not sure how soon, be seeking a 3rd. So I think let's let the campaign run so we can stay focused on that with our public communications. But after that, we'll have a nice little period to try to recruit to our cult. Join us. That'll live on YouTube forever. Okay. Bartek, anything else to add to that comprehensive report? Okay. Design also did not meet because this guy really screwed up. So we are actively trying to set a new meeting. I think kind of our top level priorities, well, first we'll be electing a chair of the committee, and then we'll be I think probably the biggest and most pressing priority, the way I see it, is getting our website revamped. So that will certainly be an agenda item, along with potential merchandise, along with any and all other ideas brought by the committee, and talking about sort of how the overall sort of design process with Legacy Cities 1.0 got real weird and then ended up having to happen in a real hurry. So I think we will be starting to think about kind of how to make that process better the next time and be able to bring in kind of more voices and maybe different sources of products and stuff like that. So that's how I see it. So hopefully we'll get a meeting on the books in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll really have something to talk about next time. Okay. I think we've lost our members of the public. Well, they were nice while they lasted. Thanks, guys. New business. Mike has written board retreat. I love your optimism. So I think last time we decided we're canceling August's meeting. We're saying that now. So that's exciting. So yeah, Mike, was there more detail?
Nothing other than just a placeholder for discussion. I thought you might want to
You
continue.
floated the idea. Anyone want to go on vacation and like do some obstacle courses or something? I do. Okay, we'll talk about it over email, I guess. If anyone has a timeshare to offer. Okay. I have nothing else, I don't think. It's very nice to see all of you. My dog knows we're done. She came downstairs because it's time for food. All right. Well, if nothing else, then we can do a vote to adjourn. A motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment? Motion
Aye.
passes. Thank you. See you all in committees and all that.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you all.